I'm sorry, but, like, these things are responses to shit you and your type have been doing, Matt. I'm sorry. There has been no minding your own business. You're literally a pundit who speaks for the Daily Wire. But even though it's late, we gotta talk about Matt Walsh, because apparently he had a whole fucking villain speech. Literally. He had a whole villain speech. We'll get into that here in a second, but first, let's get into the fan art section. First piece of fan art we have here is from Sawara, Slime Nova, paying a visit. And the next one we have is from Red Joker, also known as Red Whooper, Suris and Nova as Slimes in Terraria. Aw, gas from Terraria Tuesdays. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and get right into the video. But first, there's a thing that I want to show you guys that's funny. This is an edit from Hunter Avalon. For those who don't know, I used to do content on Hunter, and then he actually got a lot better at doing shit. Why is everybody saying the words? Why is everybody saying the words? Also, thank you for the $5 going in to the Sonic onesie fund. That I don't know why you guys are making it happen in the first place, but okay. So, like I said, used to do content on Hunter. Hunter's gotten a lot better these days. So there's this lovely little edit. Here you go. Enjoy it the same way I enjoyed it.
And which, according to you, found that there was no increase in suicide rate. Not that there was a notable decrease, but that there was no increase. And that the suicide rate was still much higher than the general population. Now, you blithely declare that this higher rate of suicide was due to, quote, social issues, not the transition. Because, what, you somehow know why all these people killed themselves? How do you know that? Well, I mean, well, you made it up, of course.
A recent literature review clearly demonstrates the specific risk factors for suicide in sexual minority youth, which includes
negative social environments.
And which, according to you, found that there was...
I love that edit. That is a 10 out of 10 edit. It's almost as if Matt Walsh is speaking entirely out of his ass. And it's very easy to just grab a study and show that he's wrong. It's not very hard to do. But let's go ahead and listen to the actual villain speech. Go sub to Hunter. He's a pretty decent. 5 years ago, if you asked me if I was going to ever say those words, I would have told you you're a liar. But anyway, let's go.
But there's another point too, and this is something that I want to say specifically to the trans activists who are now crying and panicking and hysterically ranting about imaginary genocides. I say they're doing that now. They didn't just start doing it now. They've been doing it all along. This is all they ever do.
Imaginary genocides. As if real-ass people couldn't go to the real-ass Holocaust Memorial website and look at the 10 stages of genocide listed on the Holocaust Memorial website. And if we really couldn't lock down that there are at least 4 stages we have definitely gone through, and at least 8 stages that we've done most of the legwork to get through. It's almost as if genocide is a thing that takes time, and there's a lot of different stages to it, and we can literally see those stages being taken in America. But, you know, let's continue.
But I want you, if you're in that group, I want you to listen to this part very closely. Please always remember this.
Okay.
You started it.
How?
You started it.
How?
So I see you on social media and on the news and out marching the street, crying your crocodile tears and claiming that you're being set upon by fascist right-wingers who won't let you just live your lives in peace.
But that's literally what you're doing. That's literally what you're doing. Like, people just exist as trans, try to go to the bathroom, and then you freak out about them, and then bills get made that force trans people to go to the wrong bathrooms, and then it slides all the way down to stopping gender-affirming care for people and trying to limit the ways in which trans people are able to access medical care through government institutions. I'm sorry, but my guy, speaking of genocide, I may have committed some light suicide. How? Jesus Christ! Thank you, person whose name starts with a C, for dropping $6, which got us to the 800 mark. And thank you, Ravalern, for dropping $111, which gets us to the 910 mark. Towards the fucking Sonic onesie. We're talking about a dude going through his villain speech, and this is the time to make me... This is your time to make me say, hello? Really? This is the time? Of all the fucking times we're going over Matt Walsh, we're going over this, and this is when you decide that hello is a very, very reasonable thing to make me say. Well, you know, honestly, all things considered, it's actually making me feel a little better about the situation. Not gonna lie. I don't know why, but it is. Radical Trash Cam, thank you for redeeming your points for an I thought we weren't going to get to that, but apparently you guys are just... Anyway, back to Wet Mulch.
What do we ever do to you, you cry? Why are you so angry at us? Well, let me answer that question.
Okay.
You see, the rest of us were living our lives.
Uh-huh.
We were minding our own business.
No, the fuck you weren't. Don't ever fucking lie about that. Between the fact that Obergefell was ever even a conversation in the Supreme Court, between the fact that the Civil Rights Movement ever needed to happen in the first place, between the fact that Stonewall ever needed to be a riot, I'm sorry, but, like, these things are responses to shit you and your type have been doing, Matt. I'm sorry. There has been no minding your own business. You're literally a pundit who speaks for the Daily Wire. Minding your own business would mean not doing your fucking job.
When you came along and demanded that we abandon everything we know about fundamental physical reality for your sake.
Well, it's not abandoning everything you know. Okay, Matt. As the resident Christio-fascist in the room, can I say that it's very interesting that you tell us about abandoning everything about physical reality? It's very interesting that you would be the one to say that, Matt. Because everything I know about physical reality says gods don't fucking exist. But, you know, we still seem to be here. Weird, right? Weird how two different juxtaposing beliefs can maybe have that effect on people. But hold on. Nobody's asking you to give up what you know about biological reality. We're asking you to accept that biology is a little more complicated than what you know. And gender is a social construct, which adds yet another layer on top of that. Nobody's asking you to give up the idea that men have peepees and women have vagubus. Nobody's asking you to give up that knowledge. Just accept that knowledge comes with a couple of exceptions. Some women have dicks. Some men have vagubus. I know men who have vagubus. No comment further than that. But that's not the same thing as asking you to give up your reality or whatever the hell you're dropping. Oh my god, speaking of dropping. Jinsei, thank you for dropping $20 onto there. And David, I thank you for dropping $69.69. That gets us up to $999. So not only is Stoff going to be drawing more porn, we are here just about $1 away from the thing. Nubian says Walsh is quoting Nazi propaganda. Interesting. Do you have a link to the actual thing he's quoting? Because it's not that I don't believe that on face value, knowing how meticulous Matt Walsh is in his, usual rhetoric. Jen said, why did you get us the last dollar? Fine! That means that red bar goes all the way up. Zip, boop. And the Sonic onesie is happening. Fuck you guys. Jesus Christ. That it's convenient to have to compare. That'll be helpful. Also funny who ignores the actual medical community or science. Yep. Because wasn't it Ben Shapiro who went on and had a conversation in a college about why he disagrees with the current medical consensus when it comes to brain. Why am I having issues? When Ben Shapiro said that he disagrees with the current consensus on medical science when it comes to trans people, because he literally goes and quotes the DSM-4 to try to say that trans people are actually mentally unwell or some shit. Yeah, apparently the onesie is happening. Y'all are weird-ass people. Like, it's weird. It's weird. It's like denying reality is a thing that y'all are already pretty good at, Matt.
That's what you did. You claim the right to walk into whatever bathroom you want, whatever locker room, whatever sports team. Nobody else has ever had that right. Nobody.
Wait a minute! Wait, Matt! We had this conversation about black people! No, Matt! Don't fucking pretend! Don't fucking pretend! That conversation about shared locker rooms, about being on the same sports teams, we had this conversation about fucking black people already! Welcome to the United States, Matt! We have a pretty fucking shitty way of dealing with minorities! Oh boy, and on November 16th, 1941, Joseph Goebbels published in the German magazine Der Reich that the Jews wanted the war and now they have it. Oh boy, I love it when you're literally taking the exact same type of argument that was given in Nazi propaganda and using it yourself. Are you telling me that arguments were used in another group we discriminated against? Yes! So fucking weird. So strange. This makes me so mad. Yeah, no, Matt, come on, buddy. Come on. Come on, don't literally start using fucking Jim Crow era apologetics against trans people.
Nobody else has ever had that right to just do whatever they want, go anywhere they want.
Do whatever they want, go wherever they want. Yeah, we've all had. It's called freedom, Matt. It's called freedom. We've had freedoms for a long time. We live in America. This is a place of freedom, right?
But you wanted it. You came after our children, seeking to suck them into your suicide cult.
Nobody wanted to suck children into a suicide cult, Matt. Nobody wanted to do that. We accepted the fact that people learn that they are trans earlier than the age of 18. Therefore, things that we did to make sure that kids were taken care of, steps were taken, like making sure that gender-affirming care, which included puberty blockers for kids that were underage, was available for those kids. Nobody's trying to tell your kid to be trans, not on a fucking systemic level, but okay.
Just to make yourselves feel better. You tried to restructure human society to make it affirming to you personally.
Yeah, that's what black people had to do once already. We restructure society when we realize that society is not doing well by people who participate in it.
You wanted to force the whole world to bend to your narcissism. You tried to put words in our mouths. You tried to control how we speak, even when you're not in the room.
Because the language you use when you're not in the room is the language you use when people are in the room, Matt. Habits, Matt. It's the same reason that I largely don't use the N-word when I'm in private, because I don't want to build up the habit so that when I'm in public, I still don't end up using the damn thing.
Your ego is so out of control that you even tried to take possession of parts of the English language.
You mean like people have done for ages? Like black people for the N-word and gay people for the F-slur and autistic people for the R-slur? Yeah, it's almost like there are words that can be claimed by certain groups. This is not a new phenomenon.
Like you can own them.
Yeah,
as a pet.
Mm-hmm.
You waved that hideous, ridiculous flag in our face and wouldn't stop waving it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't shut the fuck up about their identities. It's like people who bitch about pride parades when you realize that, oh, by the way, people have pride parades because other people told them not to be proud of who they are. So I think he's probably talking about pronouns. I don't give a shit what he's talking about. He's wrong.
You demanded not just tolerance, but celebration.
Yeah, celebration of your identity, as opposed to being trampled upon.
You did all of that. That was you.
And Christians definitely don't do that with their Bible at all, ever.
And now you cry victim because some of us have simply answered no?
You do more than answer no. You and Michael Knowles and other people literally used language that causes, from the top down, people to start acting in certain ways against trans people that are negative. It's not... So this is the fucking issue, okay? This is the issue with people on the right who are this fucking stupid. Or, it's not that he's stupid. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So, the issue you run into here, largely, is that a lot of people in the right-wing sphere of things pretend stupidly that they are only individuals and that their words don't have meaning, their words don't matter. The effect their words have on multiple people aren't real. That the effect that they have on people is not important. They pretend that they are islands and pretend that they do not have influence. The reality of the situation is Ben Shapiro has influence. Michael Knowles has influence. Matt Walsh has influence. These are known faces. These are known figures. The things they say and the rhetoric they use get spouted by some of the largest cable networks in existence, like Fox fucking News. When these people speak, other people listen. When you say, all I did was say no, that's not what happens. You said infinitely more than that when you've made trans people, gay people, and at other times fucking things like critical race theory a target on your platforms. When you make these things exclusive targets for yourself that you're constantly going after, then no, it's not that a handful of you said no, it's that the way you said no was repeated by multiple thousands of other people. And the worst part is, Matt, you knew that was going to happen. You wanted that to happen. I know you wanted it to happen because look at your background, my guy. You have your book, Johnny the Walrus, proudly displayed that you sell for yourself to make a profit, to have a children's book that is meant to indoctrinate kids into the idea that they can't be trans. You literally sell this propaganda openly and proudly because it's your job. It's what gets you paid millions upon millions of dollars, and the reality is nothing I say will ever make you stop. Nothing anyone says will ever make you stop, because the words of one channel with 50,000 subscribers, or even the words of a channel the size of Walsh's, or Jimmy Snow's, or people on the fucking transatlantic line, even all of our numbers combined could not equal the millions of dollars you get paid to spout your hateful rhetoric. The only ways available to anybody, Matt Walsh, to stop you from saying the hateful shit you do on your platform is one that I can't say on this platform, nor would I advocate for, or offering you more money to switch sides, because that's what it really boils down to for people like you. That's what it's always boiled down to for people like you, Matt. It's the money. That's what it's for Ben Shapiro. That's what it's for Dennis Prager. That's what it's for you. It's the money. And it's always going to be the money. You won't put that money at risk. You have to feed the bigots. You will always have to feed the bigots, because that's the audience that you actually created. And you can argue that it's not calling for genocide when people like Michael Knowles say, let's end transgenderism. And they try to hide behind, oh, it's an ideology I'm trying to end. Cool, Matt, let's end Christianity. How do we end Christianity without eliminating all of the Christians? You can't convert them all, so what do you do with the ones that won't convert, Matt? Ask them nicely again when it didn't work? No. I see in my chat people are saying, like, hashtag stop Matt Walshism. How would I stop that, Matt? How would I stop that? How would somebody stop that? How would you do that without having to rely on the idea of eliminating the other? How would you do that, Matt? The reality is you can't. You can't. But here's the thing. Here's the scariest thing about all this. I don't think we're ever going to get to the elimination style of genocide. I don't. Now you might say, well, that's a good thing, sirs. No. You don't understand. It's a lose-lose situation, and both situations suck. What Republicans are going to do, my prediction, I could be wrong, but my prediction, what Republicans are going to do in the States is they are going to keep towing the line of genocide. They're going to learn from the mistakes of the Third Reich, and they're going to toe that line for as long as they possibly can. Because the longer they toe that line, the more people they get to torture. The cruelty is the point. The cruelty makes them money. If they go full genocide, that would require a commitment that most of them don't really care for. Because most of them don't actually give a shit about trans people. They don't. But being against them makes them a lot of money, gets them a lot of votes, and they care way more about that money and votes than they do about your lives. The cruelty is the point, and the longer they are allowed to be cruel, the better. Now, realistically, that elimination is probably going to happen taking other lines of action. This is an article that Sakura just linked, saying they're trying to kill us one by one. CCP blocks hormone medication. They're trying to do what China's doing. Ma Yu, a trans woman in China, is scared of her future. She's been affected by a government block on hormone replacement therapy medication and says she doesn't want to become another statistic. I can't check my hormones and adjust the HRT plan accordingly. It makes me feel insecure. In December 2022, the Chinese Communist Party banned key ingredients necessary for HRT and forbid third-party sales. When used by transgender and non-binary folks, HRT is referred to as gender-affirming hormone therapy. Recipients are prescribed sex hormones by a doctor that help them feel comfortable in their body. Following the implementation of a series of policies banning HRT medications, there appear to have been a large number of trans and non-binary suicides across China. What people like Matt want to do is they want to keep skirting that line, because the longer they skirt that line, the more the enemies that they have politically put themselves up against to make money and to gain votes, the more they'll eliminate themselves. That's what they want. That's what they need. Because if trans people eliminate themselves, then they can keep playing this, oh, I'm not actually trying to advocate for a genocide card. They can do that. They can do it forever, in perpetuity. It's a terrible machine. Constantly strip the rights away from people, make them feel like they are unwanted and unloved in a society, make them slowly make the loudest voices against you start eliminating themselves, and then, when they have done so, you can simply say that, oh, you're just trying to save the kids from trans people because the trans people commit suicide at a higher rate, and you need to protect them. This is the stupid bullshit Mike Winger did. And Mike, if this video ever makes it to you, I remember when James had to save your ass from me and Ocean in a debate, when I pointed out in that debate that the type of shit that you actually ascribe to is in fact homophobia. When you try to argue that you're just concerned about people who are LGBTQ, you just don't want people converting over to that side because they have such higher rates of suicide. They have higher rates of suicide because of people like you. You are no different than people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro when you do this half-assed, stupid-ass, petty-ass concern trolling. Ocean, our watery Keltoy, yes, me and Ocean did a debate with Mike Winger. It was supposed to be me versus Ocean versus Mike, but then the topic of LGBTQ people got brought up, which was a topic brought up by me, and that made us align both against Mike. If his approach worked, then the Christians' gay camps would have converted people. They didn't. Yup. But, Matt, don't worry. We're only 2 minutes into your video. We've got more to go.
You made demands. Many people surrendered to those demands immediately, but some of us, a few of us,
A few of us. A few. It's a funny way of saying multiple thousands, even millions. But okay.
are refusing. And that makes you what? A victim? You bullied most people into submission right away, but now you want to compare yourselves to Jews in the Holocaust?
Yes, because the same steps are being taken against fucking trans people. It's the same steps. Literally, we can take the things that are happening to trans people right now and juxtapose them to the steps of genocide that are listed in the Holocaust Museum. And there are still idiots, people who I want to use much more pointed language to. There are still idiots in my comment section that will argue day in and day out, trying to say, well, actually, no, it's not genocide because you... Shut the fuck up. No, seriously. Go put your head in a toilet. Flush it a few times. I want to make sure the water's clean because, you know, infections are bad. That's how you get pink eye. But that's probably where your head belongs. It doesn't need to be looking at a keyboard, typing in my comment section, telling me how, despite the fact that I literally showcased the exact things that were happening that showed that, yes, an actual genocide of trans people is in the making in the United States, that the steps have been taken. They are being taken. Despite the fact that I literally go through all of that shit point by point, it's not enough for some of you. Now, I don't know which ones of you are trolls, I don't know which ones of you legitimately believe that you're right, or which ones of you are just that fucking stupid. What I do know is, every single one of you drive up my engagement. But I'd rather your head be in the toilet. Anyways, let's continue.
Because a few of us can't be controlled so easily?
It's not about control. When a black person says, stop beating me, when a trans person says, stop taking away my medication, when a gay person says, let me be married, that's not control. That's asking for being treated like a fucking human being.
Well, that is just a testament to your boundless narcissism. It didn't have to be this way. If you were really interested in privacy, if you really simply wanted the ability to live your life as you wished, then you could have had that. So you could have had that.
They couldn't, though. Trans people were already being denied several of their rights before we had all of these bills coming out.
If you had just said, well, I'm going to live as though I'm the opposite sex, I'm going to tell everyone that I'm the opposite sex, and I'm going to change my name and how I dress, and I'm going to do all of this because it's what I want to do and it's how I want to live. Well,
That's what happened with most people, yes.
if you had just said that, you could have done that.
One, you're speaking to an entire group of people. Some of them were not treated so nicely when they did that. Some of them were beaten. And, here's the thing. Living as that, Matt, includes going into those locker rooms. Living as that gender includes going into those bathrooms. Living as that gender includes being treated like that gender. That's what it means, Matt.
I personally still would not have agreed with your lifestyle, and I personally would not have gone along with the charade, and I would not have affirmed the lie.
Okay, so you're saying that somebody could have done all of that and you still would have been needlessly cruel to them. So then what's the point? What option do people have then? Like, what option do people have when you're just like, you could have done all that, but I still would have done this. And since you're a pundit on a platform, you still would have been saying the same things that you're doing right. Holy shit, Matt! It's almost as if nothing would have fucking changed! Because you would have said the same shit on your platform. Because if you're saying and living the same things either way, then the things you said on your platform never would have changed. So, what? What were trans people supposed to do? What were they supposed to do?
I would not have. But society generally would have left you alone, as you claim you want.
No, that's not what would have happened. You see, in Nazi Germany, some of the first books that were burned were books talking about trans people. Every copy of a book named The Documented Existence and Scientific Observance of Transsexuals in Europe for hundreds of years was destroyed in the Nazi book burning. And then people like you try to go like, oh, well, if you had just been different, if you had just been a good trans person, if you had just been a good person. Shut the fuck up, Matt. History shows that's not what happens. History shows that minority groups get the shit end of the stick, and when they ask for the shit end of the stick to be flavored a little fucking better for them, you still do this shit. Stonewall happened, Matt. Do you know why Stonewall happened? Because people were not letting gay people live well enough alone. They were not letting trans people live well enough alone. That's not a thing that they were doing, Matt.
And I know that because that was already the experience of the very small minority of trans-identified people in this country up until the last decade or so.
No, it wasn't, Matt. The reason that it wasn't that way is those trans people were largely having to live in the closet. They were largely having to live in such a way that media made fun of them all the fucking time. That they didn't get to actually experience life as the other sex, life as the other gender. Because when they tried to do that, Matt, they got ostracized. Do you know how many people, and when you say a small percentage, you mean 1.6 million. Yeah, that's a small percentage, but that's still 1.6 million trans people in the United States. Matt, those people tried to live their lives. But there are certain things that needed to be affirmed for them to live their lives the way they wanted to. One of them is needing access to HRT. One of them is normalization of them and people like them in media. Normalization of people in media directly contributes to them being treated better by the general public. If every single movie that came out right now still treated black people like they were expected to be slaves, then every fucking child who grew up in America watching the media that we produced would think that the first black person on the street that they saw was owned by the nearest white guy. Society is changing for the better. But there are people like you that streak and maw and mauled and cry about how people who want to live their lives shouldn't be able to. The things you've said that trans people do are basically asking you to respect them and accepting that kids sometimes need things like hormone blockers. Those are the things. Those are the things you're mad at. Puberty blockers, a medication that we were largely using on kids who had early onset breast cancer already, so we already kind of understood how they fucking worked. And a medication that has shown over time to actually improve the lives of trans people as they transition into adulthood. Matt, what the fuck are you talking about? Trans people have been asking for the things they require.
Prior to this past decade, this tiny group of people basically lived the lifestyle they wanted to live, and there wasn't much attempt to stop them from doing so.
This is historical revisionism because that was not the case. Beatings still occurred against trans people at a very large rate. Trans people had to exist in the closet at a very large rate in order to make sure society didn't treat them like garbage. Again, they were made fun of in media all the fucking time, and things like their rights to affirming care were constantly fought over by the medical industry. But okay.
We didn't really talk about it. It wasn't discussed. It was very much on the fringes.
It wasn't discussed, so you got to ignore it. That's what you're saying. What you're saying is you were ignorant of the trans person's experience, and therefore you got to ignore it. Matt, I used to be the same way. I had a friend in high school who came out as trans, and the minute that he came out as trans, I treated him like shit. Me and several other people treated him like shit because we were all grown-up conservative Christians, and therefore when we met a gay person or met a trans person, the initial thought was to treat them like garbage, because that's what God would have wanted, right? Matt, you can say that things were all hunky-dory for trans people, but they weren't, and I know they weren't, because I was part of the fucking problem. Matt?
But that wasn't good enough for you. In your vanity, you couldn't be satisfied merely with the ability to live how you want. You demanded the celebration. You needed not just the ability to practice your lifestyle, but you needed a parade following behind you and cheering you on the whole time.
Because that was a stark contrast to what was being experienced before. There's nothing wrong with celebrating a trans person's existence. The absolute nanosecond that I was able to help Nova get his first masculine haircut, I fucking was thrilled watching the happy tears fall down his fucking face. That is an experience that you only get to have when you're affirming somebody, Matt. It is one of the most happy fucking times for that person, and it's one of the most happy fucking times for you if you have even an ounce of empathy.
And you needed affirmation.
Yeah, affirmation, which literally leads to a lowering of trans suicide rates.
My God, your obsessive, unquenchable need for affirmation. Have you noticed that nobody else walks around every day demanding that the entire world affirm them every second?
Yeah, because they're already affirmed, Matt. Holy shit, this isn't hard. Cis people, like me, are already affirmed whenever I walk outside. When I walk outside as a dude, people treat me like a dude, because I look like a dude, I grew up as a dude. That's my lived experience. But the lived experience for a lot of trans people, is they walk outside and they don't get that. Matt, I had an experience recently. I did not realize I was sufficiently touch-starved. I'm not going to say names in this particular experience. Wouldn't be fair to anybody involved. But I was very touch-starved, and I didn't know it. I didn't know that that was part of my lived experience, because I didn't know any better. And then I was laying in bed, and I did get, and it was in a way that I had not been cuddled before, and it made me literally have a breakdown. I didn't realize I was touch-starved. But dear fucking God, did I want that feeling again. That is my experience from somebody who did not realize what he was living through before. The reasons why are largely not important. That exact experience is what a trans person experiences when they hear their chosen name. Razor Storm, have a good night, sleep well. That experience is what a trans person experiences when they hear their chosen name. That is what they experience when they get to wear the clothes comfortably of the gender that they present as now. A lot of times it's not realizing what you haven't had. A lot of times it's not realizing what you've been missing, but then you get it. And the minute you get it, that's it. Little N says, oh, a drama channel leaves. Cool. Don't let the fucking door hit you on the way out. This isn't a drama channel, but if you want to think that's the case, it's okay to be wrong and go away. I'm not telling you to stay here, but that's fine. That was an experience for me. And I got to see what happened when a friend of mine was actually being properly affirmed in the earliest stages of transition. So Matt, you find yourselves in an impasse. You can either give these incredibly happy experiences to these people, and it costs you nothing. Giving somebody their proper pronouns costs you nothing. Telling them their name, the name they chose, costs you nothing. The cruelty is the point for people like you, Matt. Because for people like you, the idea that you have this power over someone, you get off to it, ignoring the money that you make from it. Having not only lived the experience of receiving something that it was hurting me to live without, and seeing somebody else go through the experience of receiving that thing that they had lived without. That is always going to be my reason for trying to make sure that anybody, any of my friends who are trans, can come out, can be affirmed, and can be treated like decent fucking people. Because at the end of the day, it costs me nothing. And it will never cost me anything. But you think it costs you something, Matt. I know what it would cost you. It would cost you money.
No one ever did that. No one has lived their life that way.
Because they haven't had to, Matt.
Walking around looking for affirmation. None of the rest of us even think about that.
So when black people were first given their rights, they didn't walk away looking for affirmation to be treated as, free people. They didn't have lived experiences where people treated them like they were supposed to be slaves, but it was just so inconvenient the government wouldn't let them be that anymore. That wasn't a lived experience of anybody back then. This is what typically happens when society doesn't accept a minority group, and that minority group is in the process of being accepted. Oh, I don't know. Maybe this is the thing that Asian people had to deal with in the United States when we started detaining them in camps. Who knows, Matt? Who knows? Maybe the United States has such a spotty history with dealing with minority groups that shutting the fuck up might be a good thing to do here.
The idea that you're going to walk out your door and you need to be affirmed by people? Affirmed? How is that anyone's job to affirm you?
It's not their job. They're just asking you to be a decent human being, and it's not a big ask.
You decided to do that. You couldn't just believe whatever you believed about yourself. Nobody can stop you from having a belief about yourself. You wanted the rest of us to believe it too. You wanted to force us to believe it.
Nobody's trying to force you to believe it. They're asking you to treat them like normal human beings. You can believe whatever you want to believe in your rotted, small, Grinch-ass heart of hearts. You can believe whatever you want. I guarantee you, most trans people don't give a shit. They just want you to treat them like normal human beings and stop talking about them on your fucking show. That's what they want.
You wanted society to be restructured around your self-perceptions, and you wanted our children.
Nobody wants your fucking children. They're ugly as sin. And as far as wanting society to be restructured, that's the basic thing that people who are currently not being treated well by society want. People who are not treated well by society want society to treat them better. That's what they want. And yeah, changing society around might be a bit of an ask, but realistically, it's not that hard to do.
You wanted to induct countless children into your confusion, baptize them into it, so that the confusion you foster in them might affirm the confusion you harbor in your own minds.
I like how he has to use religious language, basically kind of pseudo-accepting that the type of brainwashing that religions largely use on people is kind of predatory. Weird bit of projection there without any type of actual self-reflection, but
You pretended that you wanted freedom, but you had that.
No, they didn't.
You wanted more.
Freedom is not existing in the closet perpetually.
You didn't just want your own lifestyle. You wanted us to participate in it with you.
Yeah, by just calling them the right name. That's it. That's all it was. That's all the participation was, Matt. Like, you use this flowery language to disguise that all that was being asked of you was call them the name they said they were. Call them the name they said they were. Use the pronouns that they used. Hell, in a pinch, you don't even have to use a pronoun for somebody. A pronoun is a replacement for using a name. You could have just used their name, but you wouldn't even do that.
That's what this comes down to. You are demanding our participation, and what we are saying to you, some of us, is no.
Matt, can we have the same conversation about Christianity, please? People like you demanding people like me to participate in your religion despite the fact that I do not share it? It's amazing how much of this language can be turned on you.
Can you get that through your heads? We are allowed to say no. We are not going to participate.
Right, and then when you decide to not affirm somebody's identity and you decide to be an asshole and you decide to be a dipshit, then is there any wonder that people largely have a reaction to that?
You are the mouse who wanted a cookie, and you were given the cookie, and you ate it. But
The cookie was never given, Matt. You literally denied the cookie. None of this would have happened if you had just said, hey, trans people exist and that's cool. Trans rights never needed to be a slogan if we had just taken care of trans people from the beginning, but we didn't do that. We did things like call their existence a mental disorder in early forms of the DSM. Matt, you tried to pretend that the world was this utopia for trans people until they got uppity. This is the same thing people said about black people during Jim Crow. In fact, uppity was the exact verbiage used back then. The idea, largely, was that black people needed to stay in their lane, and if they had just stayed in their lane, they were treated so well, equal, separate, but equal to everyone else, and their lives could have been so much better if they just stayed in their lane, but they had to get uppity. They had to get uppity and start talking back. This is the same shit we did during civil rights, and it's the same shit we're going to do 30 years from now with a different minority group. But if there's one thing history has showed me, it's that we have a tendency of winning these battles over time. Pendulum may bounce back and forth generationally, but it largely tends to swing progressive. Matt, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't. But when you say trans people started it, what you mean is they started it by existing, and then you decided to take up the bigoted fight to try to wipe them out, either from public consciousness or from legal protection. But whatever it was, it got you attention. It got you attention. People paid attention to your anti-trans bigotry. And then people like Chris Rufo decided that trans people were the next big target for his fucking campaigns. Just like when he did that for CRT. You say nobody's ever walked around demanding everybody else gets affirmation, but I'm sorry, evangelical movements have been doing that all the fucking time to try to make everybody kowtow to their religions. You can't wait to see Matt Walsh in history books as the shittiest loser alive. But that's all I got there. What really happened, Matt, is you lost the fight against gay people. That's what really happened, right? Let's be honest with ourselves. The reality is, at one point, gay people were highly targeted in the media as groomers, as people who shouldn't have access to their ability to get married. And yeah, that still happens, but not as much now. It became faux pas to target gay people. But trans people are a little weirder than that, aren't they? It's really weird to think of a girl with a dick. It's not weird to think of a girl kissing a girl. You probably wanted your wife to do that to your sister already, Matt. It's not weird to think that one day something might be inserted into your ass. But somebody whose genitalia doesn't match what you think it should, that's a little bit weirder. It's a little bit stranger. The fact that there's a guy walking down the street who you may even go to the bar with and have drinks with might actually have a vagina. Might actually be wearing a binder, and you wouldn't know it. Because that person knows deep down that while they can sit down and have a drink with you, they'll never show you who they really are. Because they're too scared to. Because you've made them that way. At the end of the day, Matt, gay people stopped being a valid target, and so trans people became the target. Which is what happened when black people stopped being a valid target. Muslims became the target. Some minority group in America will always be targeted by the GOP. After the Southern strategy, the GOP desperately needed to make sure that they had the ability to oppress someone. It became coded into the DNA of the Grand Old Party. During Ronald Reagan's presidency, the infiltration of the religious right began into the GOP. The Southern strategy opened the door, but after Reagan's presidency, that door was closed. And all the bigots had already come to roost. The point these days is the GOP is cruel for the sake of getting votes. Even those that know better know that there's money in votes in being the way they are. This is the reason people like Blair White made her video saying that most of the conservatives who say shit on YouTube don't believe half the shit they say, but they know what makes them money, so they do that. There's a reason that she said that, because most of the time it's true. But it doesn't matter what they believe in their heart of hearts. It doesn't matter who the real biggest bigot is. None of that matters. What matters is their rhetoric and the effect that it has on people. What matters is the shit that they say and what it means. When Michael Knowles says he wants to eliminate transgenderism, ask yourself exactly what methodology would be used in that elimination. But with that said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't be like Matt. Be a little more principled than that. Insert end of video Wow, I've been saying trans a lot. Insert end of video tagline here.